15 years slogging it out in netball, and I change a couple of lyrics to an ABBA song, all of a sudden people want to talk to me.
I'm really passionate about netball.
Hello and welcome back to Here If You Need, your netball podcast where we say what everyone else is thinking. My name is Emily Wilson and alongside me, as always, it's Nia Jones. Hello Nia, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Emily. How are you, though? Because you just all of a sudden had a bit of stage fright and didn't want to do the introduction, and on the spot said, do I want to do it? No, thank you. I took enough on this thing.
Well, I don't know. I feel like normally there's a bit of build-up, whereas it's quite early in the morning and it's sudden straight in, cold open.
Yeah, we haven't really done a warm-up, have we? So if we get injured in this one, we know why.
Yeah, exactly. And if our voices start cracking, you know what's happened. Yeah. How are you, Nia? How was your weekend?
Not bad, thanks. Yeah, I was very lucky logistically this weekend, actually, because I was asked to go to the doubleheader in Liverpool, and then the match that Channel 4 chose to cover was a match in Liverpool, a semi-final match in Liverpool, as opposed to a one in London. So, the travel gods were with me this weekend. So it was busy, but I'm back home in Wrexham at mum and dad's. I'm hoping that my screaming nephew doesn't disrupt us, or either of my mum and dad's two ragdoll cats. So fingers crossed, everybody. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I see you've changed back to a sort of more normal colour after Saturdays.
It's been a while since I can slap on that much fake tan for a game day. Usually it's because I'm in some sort of mini lycra dress with a bib on it. But I'm glad you noticed my tan. Thanks for that. And no, I haven't been anywhere nice. I'd been online.
Down to Superdrug.
Yeah.
Well, you look great, and the event looked very good. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it. It was the final double header of the season, and I've not made it down to one. Was this your first one?
It was, yeah.
Tell us, what was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, it was cool. So obviously it was a little bit bizarre that obviously we were in Liverpool for what was a home game for a Manchester-based team and Dragons, who are no longer just a Cardiff-based team, but that's where they've traditionally played their matches. They have in the past played matches in Wrexham up north, but that was when the sport wasn't quite so big and you could justify it being in a sports hall, maybe with some chairs at the side of the court. So there's no real arena in North Wales, but I know that that's a real focus for the Dragons, is to include all of Wales a little bit more. It was great, atmosphere was great, and obviously we were helped by two great games as well that were well contested, with plenty of spicy bits involved as well, which was great. I think a work on still needs to be, and we were talking about this, me and the rest of the guys that worked on the Sky team. It was a great Sky team this week. I had loads of fun with those guys, but like how the venues and like the broadcast don't necessarily work together yet. So I think this is going out of my realm of expertise by some way, but like the noise of the PA system in the arena that was obviously great for fans that were in there was super loud, and the timings of when they were coming in, whatnot, wasn't necessarily helping our side of the broadcast with, as you'll know, all the sound issues that you have to make sure are not just effective but also safe. And the place where we were set up was actually right next to like the DJ booth. So I know that there was some ongoing things going on there. I don't know if it came across on the broadcast, but in terms of fans getting two for the price of one, like, we love a bargain like that as Brits, don't we? So I think fans enjoy it. And just from some of the fans that I spoke to, some fans that are based sort of Cheshire and Merseyside way were so excited that Super League Netball was on their doorstep. And I even spoke to some fans that were from like North West Wales. So it's still a good 2-hour drive for them. But if it weren't for that match being there, they probably wouldn't come across and see two of their favourite teams in probably Thunder and Dragons, because that's sort of geographically who they follow. So fans seem to really enjoy it. Players were really accessible after the games as well. I know they were doing Q&As in the VIP area. There were cheerleaders. So overall, a very good day out. It sounds very Gary Barlow of me, doesn't it?
It does, but it does look like a good day out. But I just want to say, why are we not doing more of them? I feel like this has been the first season that we've done them, and I think next season we should get them in. I'd love to go see 2 matches in one.
Yeah, I think you need to weigh it up in terms of who takes like the home team revenue from the ticket sales, if you know what I mean. So without getting into the nitty gritty of it, because I did have a couple of conversations with people who are working on the event from various teams, and even though it was down as a Dragons home game, I think it was very much put on by Thunder. But it was still going to be more financially like profitable for Dragons to have still held that as a home venue with different intricacies that I'm probably safe for not getting into. So it's worked for those two clubs in particular.
Yeah.
And I know that when they've done double headers in Nottingham, for instance, where, you know, there's very much two Midlands-based teams, then that works as well for their fans. But, you know, I think clubs are having to act like really price up. What's the cost of putting it on in this big arena?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to do all the work for it? Where are the profits from the ticket sales going to go to? And is that more cost efficient than not having it as a double header and having it in our normal stadium, for instance? So I think that's why they're a little bit niche and they're a little bit few and far between. Yeah, but maybe they'll look at it. I think the reason that we all enjoy it as well is because there's a big Sky production. That massively helps, that we get Jenna in as the presenter. You know, you get good access with interviews, you get good VTs, and just the overall production is better because you've got more cameras and whatever. So I think that probably makes it more enjoyable for fans watching at home as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you get the insight into the huddles, which
yes,
we love.
Yeah.
We love. All right, our second talking point is the Malaysian League. Now, I have not followed this league at all. You know, obviously, Langman and Gretel Bueta have been out there playing for the Johor Jewels. And it seems that they lost in the final.
Yeah.
I don't really understand how, because every video I've seen, it's just basically been Laura Langman
passing to Bueta and scoring a goal.
Yeah. But I think it's a really interesting league. There's clearly a lot of money behind it. I'm wondering if it's going to move times next year so that it's going to be on at a different time to the NSL, SSN, ANZ. And it's going to become a bit more like the IPL did in cricket, where players sort of go and play that and then they come in back for the NSL, because it might be a shame for the local players, but yeah, something to talk about. But what do you know any more about how they lost the final?
No, I don't. I haven't watched the game, but I was as surprised as you, especially in positions that they are, like centre and goal attack. If you have two that are as dominant as we remember them, then you would expect them to win that league. However, what I will say is, I think it was in 2022, I was working for a school and we went on a sports tour to Malaysia. Now, we were not an exceptional netball school. We took like a rugby team, a football team and a netball team. We weren't exceptional. We were quite a small, private Welsh school that were, you know, we had good all-rounders, if you like. But, you know, we used to train 2 or 3 times a week. One of those sessions would be S&C. So we used to try and make it sort of like a very much first team thing. We turned up to a school for a netball game and they set us up on this like half indoor, half outdoor court. So it kind of was in shelter, but there was no sides to it, if you know what I mean. So overnight a load of rain had come in and was all over the court, and I'm thinking, I don't want to be a diva, but I really don't want the girls to play on this, because I'm thinking if I have to call one of their parents back home and say they've slipped over and their knee is twice the size as it was before we arrived, then I'm going to get in trouble. So they were absolutely lovely, like the loveliest people, and I had to say before we started, like, I'm really sorry, can we help sweep the, you know, puddles off the court before they start? Because they were ready to go. They didn't see it as an issue whatsoever. So after a while of delaying the kickoff, of me feeling very awkward and very British and snooty, which I wasn't trying to be, sweeping it off. It still wasn't perfect, but I was like, I can't delay this anymore. I said to the girls, like, maybe take a little bit off your intensity, because I wouldn't want to be, you know, diving around on this. Anyway, they absolutely schooled us, like absolutely schooled us. It was the most basic, simple, efficient netball you've ever seen, but they didn't miss a shot either. Like, I was absolutely blown away. Just because of where we don't see Malaysia in the world rankings, we don't really see them compete at major tournaments. So I was just absolutely blown away, and I spoke to their coaches for ages afterwards, like, how do you do your training? How often do you train? But she did say, we train every day for nearly 2 hours, and I steal drills off YouTube. That's what she said to me. And she said that we will stay on the same drill for a whole session. So there's something in that. There's absolutely something in that.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get from that is we shouldn't just underestimate the quality in these countries based on what we see at a World Cup every 4 years or a Commonwealth Games. And I think what's coming across on the socials, of which they've clearly pumped a lot of money into, is how much they've invested in that side of it to spread this message. And you see players go out and speak to school groups and speak to local clubs, and it's just young girls in there. And that must be so inspiring for them to see this now sport on mainstream telly over there and on the internet, with Malaysian athletes in it. So in terms of that piece, it's amazing, because that's what we want. We need to grow the world game. We need more players playing it. We need them playing at a high level. But it's a kind of a little bit of like what we've seen in like men's football over the years, in that like somebody somewhere has decided they want to pump money into it. And clearly that check is big enough to attract some real big names. Now, one positive is that Langman retired a long time ago, and Bueta has obviously been out for a while, having her 3 kids.
Three,
I
yeah,
think
she's
3
got 3.
kids. So it's not like it's a signing that we've lost from an SSN team or an ANZ team or an NSL team. They've opted to play that. I think that would cause more controversy. There were some other players as well. I think Jonte Stridham, who's a defender, a South African defender who used to be at Steel, she went over and played as well. I think Siggy Berger was lined up to go and
she
play.
did.
I'm not sure if she picked up an injury, but there's clearly something in it for players. So yes, unless they change the timing of it, I would worry that maybe if an athlete was offered, I don't know, 12k over here and double that over there, I'm just speculating in terms of finances, then they might fancy a little venture over there. Then that would become more of a controversial issue, I think. I also think it's interesting that they've chosen to use, is it NSL 2026? And that feels a bit intentional for me, because the first thing you would do if you were trying to think of a hashtag is check that there isn't one already like that. So I do think that's maybe a little bit intentional, that if people are searching that hashtag, which is very popular over here, then automatically you're getting some coverage of the Super League in Malaysia. So
MSL.
I think it's Netball Super League.
No, I think it is. I think it is NSL,
Right.
but it should be MSL.
Yes, it should. Maybe have a word with the
I'll
Royals
give 'em
over
a ring.
there.
Yeah, I think it's also a good time for it to happen because of the Olympic bid that is coming up. I don't know, is there a deadline for that? It just feels like it's growing, the idea of the Olympic bid. I don't really know much
No
about
idea.
it, to be
I do know that the host nation has a big say over which sports are contested, and like all home nations, they tend to massively favour sports that they're excellent at and they would probably be gold medal contenders in, of which obviously Australia are.
So out for breakdancing, in for
maybe that was iconic
after the last Olympics.
What are you going to enter now if that's gone?
I've always fancied myself at the
archery.
Yeah. I thought that looks like a longevity.
Just because you've done it once,
still possible.
You've done it once on a hen do, haven't you, with a plastic arrow?
I've actually never done it. I just thought, what could I do that's still at 38, 37, I can, still make it. And it's that. And it was curling until I saw some regular people try curling. And then I was like, no, I think we'll cross that one off the list. But did you know there was a stat that came out of something like 60% of British people thought that they could be an Olympic medalist?
That is just so us. That is so us, isn't it? And also, I saw a stat like a few months ago that a disgustingly high amount of people thought they could like win a point against Serena Williams in a tennis match. I'm like, guys, come on. Yeah. We're doing to curling and archery.
Mainly, I'm actually.
We're doing to curling and archery right now what people do to netball. So let's stop right now and give full respect to these athletes, because
oh no, I fully I respect them. I just was thinking, what's the only possible option?
It's also getting hold of those stones. They're like very bespoke stones that have to be crafted over months and months and months from a very specific part of Scotland. So good luck getting your mittens on one of those.
Yeah, true. Now, third talking point is something that I feel quite strongly about. So athletes are coming back from pregnancy, and we saw it this week in particular with Paige Hadley, and I'm all for it. I'm all for athletes coming back from pregnancy. And she came back after, I think, 10 weeks after giving birth. Gretel Bueta came back 3 months after giving birth, and Nat Metcalf's baby was 1 year old over the weekend. So I feel like it also comes together for appropriate talking point from my point of view. I think it's incredible that they've managed to come back so fast, and I'm all for it. Like, well done. They've obviously gone past all the checks and stuff, but I think there needs to be a bit more of a dialogue about how this is not normal. coming back after 3 months to high level elite sport is incredible and insane and wild. And having come back to netball after giving birth, it took me 9 months to set foot on a netball court, and even then I thought my uterus might fall out. Like, it was a big thing, and I just think that more people need to talk that it's not just a case that you can give birth and then just step back onto a netball court, because your body goes through so many changes. And I remember feeling like a bit of, not pressure, like obviously I'm social netballer. But when I did come back, people were like, I haven't seen you for a while. I was like, oh yeah, I had a baby. And they were like, oh, welcome back. And I was like, yeah, well, it's 9 months after I've given birth. So like, it took me a while. And now I look back and I'm like, that's a not very long time at all. And yeah, I just wanted to say something about it because I've seen everyone going, wow, that's incredible. But yeah, I think the other people to talk about are Emily Mannix, who's spoken a lot about how she delayed coming back after her birth, and also the work that Shamira Sterling, not work, but she's talking really openly about postnatal depression, how it's affecting her. So I think it's really positive we've got so many more mums coming back, but I just wanted to bring that up because I've seen a lot of praise for Paige Hadley, and fair dues to it. I don't want to say don't do it, but just to remember, if you are a new mum or if you are pregnant, that's not the case for everyone, and don't judge yourself against everyone else. And it can take forever, especially if you have complicated birth. So yeah, just wanted to say that, Nia.
Very well said. And I've never been pregnant or had a baby, but I think whether you choose to come back or whether you choose not to come back, we shouldn't necessarily praise one over the other, and we certainly shouldn't be praising whoever comes back sooner than somebody else, because as you say, just listening to some pregnancy, labour, birth stories of some of my friends and family, I mean, I don't even know how you get out of bed some days in the morning after some of the stories I hear, never mind think about playing a netball match. So I think just mums in general deserve a bit more love. But also how different, as you say, how different people's journeys to becoming pregnant are, how different people's labours and, as you say, birthing stories are, the complications around that. Like, for some people, it will be a choice whether they come back or don't come back, and how quickly that is. But for some people, it's an active choice. And I don't necessarily think one is harder than the other. I know some people who've chosen not to come back for various different reasons. They want to commit more to their baby, or they don't have the social network of other people, or they don't have the medical and S&C support that people like Paige Hadley probably has at her disposal. So they have to make an active choice whether they're happy with it, overall happy with it or not, which that is also hard. That's extremely hard in a different way to training right up until you give birth and then coming back really quickly. Like, it's choose your heart. So yeah, amazing feat from Paige Hadley. Brilliant that Shamira Sterling is speaking out about her mental struggles from coming back, but also we're just seeing it in full flow that, let's be honest, the world's best netballer is very much human. And I think that's what we sometimes lose sight of when we see these amazing athletes on our screens, is they're so different from me, and they're so different from me who plays grassroots netball, for instance. They're not. They go through all the same emotions. They go through all the same feelings. So, yeah, props to the mums everywhere, whether you're back playing or whether you used to play and you're now watching on from afar. Because, yeah, unbelievable.
It changes everything. Right, now, the last talking point I've got here is regarding the chants, the famous chants now, Nia. And I do have to thank you. I've had Super Trooper in my head ever since last week. I've been walking along singing Super Trooper, lights are gonna blind you. I'm sure everyone else has also got in there. Yeah. Did you have many comments the weekend?
Many. like 15 years slogging it out in netball, and I change a couple of lyrics to an ABBA song, and all of a sudden people want to talk to me. No, honestly, the response has been cracking me up. So yeah, if you've left any comments, or you've pulled me to one side and said that you tuned in and enjoyed them, or even if you've written your own, I've been living for them. So I really didn't think it would take off. I wouldn't have been offended if you'd have cut it out the pod altogether, but it turns out the majority of people quite enjoyed them. And you know what? Credit to some people in the crowd at Liverpool. It was very loud, and I always had either in-ears in ready to come on courtside as a pundit with Jenna, or I was obviously in comms, so couldn't hear anybody in the crowd. But they told me, they were like, "We tried the chant, we tried the Gracie chant." It was sort of like two merry women with the wine. So well done if you tried to get it going. And yeah, we'll try. Well, hopefully for the end of the season, we'll hear one started, and we'll hear one organically come around in the crowd, whether that's one of mine or one of your own.
Yeah, I did get a message saying that they thought they heard the Your Mum Gracie Smith one in the crowd at Liverpool. So, well done, girls. Well done. My favourite, I'm just going to highlight one, is from Tony Mary Newell. And it was because I was trying to think, I was like, what's the best football chant? And it's got to be Luis Diaz's chant, which, if you don't know, just look up Luis Diaz from Liverpool.
He's now at Bayern Munich, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, but the chants from Liverpool days, yeah. And it goes, I can't believe I'm going to do this.
Yeah, see, I did this for 10 minutes last week. I can relax here. Go on, Em. Take it away.
Her name is Lois. We call her Ninja. She came to score, came to score, came to score. She's Lois Pearson. She came from Bury. And she plays for Manchester.
Very good.
Well done, Tony. That was exceptional. The first game was Birmingham Panthers versus Loughborough Lightning on Friday night. And they went down in the end by 16 goals, 60-76 to Loughborough. But I think this could have been, other than their win, their best game of the season. They started off strong, but I think they were 1 down going into half-time. They were leading going into quarter-time. And things are looking up for Birmingham Panthers. Did you catch any of this, Nia?
Yes, I did. And I'm so chuffed for them because, as you said, as amazing as their win against Dragons was, they can take so much from that first half. And I had to go back and watch it because I was thinking, what on earth has happened? But they played so well. They were absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I loved the multiple options on attack. Like, they really looked like they were reading off each other. There was good ball speed. The pre-movement was proactive and done in enough time. I just feel like they made Loughborough look like... They made Loughborough come away from their structure somewhat. Loughborough, to me, looked like they were chasing rather than dictating on defence. And that's a huge compliment to the movement and creativity of Birmingham Panthers, but also the ball speed. The connection looks way more solidified now between Cregan and Gabani in the circle. If ever somebody needed to punch out the top again, like, they're two players who can play goal shooter and goal attack. So that's great, but it's also sometimes you can end up doing the same thing at the same time. But I thought they were brilliant and reading off each other. Somebody always like offering towards a post, somebody always offering towards a ball, which is great. What I really loved though is the defensive pressure that they put on as well. So they were on their own player, but I don't know if you noticed, it's something that we call sagging. So like you might be on your play and you might go out and challenge on that first drive, but once they catch it, you should be thinking like, what's my next job? Sometimes your next job, instructed by the coaches, is to put arms over pressure on to try and delay the next pass or lift the next pass. But what Panthers are doing quite a lot, particularly second phase defence of a centre pass, was sagging back onto the designed person to get the second phase, if you know what I mean. So it was really delaying that pass, forcing Loughborough backwards instead. Then all of a sudden they're set in their defensive third and they can go out and try and attack things. Fiddler put Sammy Wallace-Joseph under heaps of pressure. I thought Loughborough's feeds into her were woeful in the first quarter, and that was both Sammy Wallace-Joseph being moved off where she was holding too much by Fiddler, a little bit weak on the hold, but also the feeds into her were way too short, like, if anything, a bit disrespectful over the top of Charlie Fiddler. So yes, Loughborough improved, and Ella Clark was integral to that in the second half. But I just think Birmingham Panthers can take huge amount of confidence from what they did to Loughborough. So it's so easy to say like, oh, Loughborough had an off day. No, Panthers were really, really good in the first half, and we criticised them. I criticised them a couple of weeks ago for scoring 35 in a Super League match. To score 60 against a team like Loughborough Lightning in the form they're in was, brilliant for them.
Yeah. I also want to highlight Jo Noelle coming on. I thought that everyone talks about Ella Clark, and she came on and made a huge difference. But at the same time, Jo Noelle came on and changed that defensive end. I thought it's the first time this whole weekend, actually, I feel like it was the first time I'd seen lots of these young up and coming players show a bit of their inexperience. So with Selena Appleby-Prince, there was a moment just at the end of the first half where they had like 5 seconds, Panthers, to get the ball to goal, and she came out and to try and take an intercept, and she just left Creek under the post, and the ball in was just easy, and it just meant they got that goal at the end of the first half. And I was like, that just, shows a bit of inexperience there. And I thought that Jo Noelle came on and really settled that defensive end for them. But yeah, I agree. It was a lovely to watch Birmingham come together, and Sammy Wallace-Joseph also showed her the confidence she has in herself. Yeah. So those shots weren't dropping, and she just was like, I'm still going to take these super shots. It doesn't matter if we're down or we're not winning. I'm still going to take them. And I think she's having such a good season. Like, do you think she'll be back in SSN next year?
I don't know. Obviously, things ended a bit weirdly, and we're still not fully privy to what went on between her and the Swifts. So I don't know. I think when a player has been down, and I mean down from an injury perspective as well, and a professional perspective, she had no club over there quite suddenly. For somebody like Loughborough to come in and swoop you over and look after you, and then we've seen the progress in her individually as well over a year or two. That can really make you feel at home at a club as well. She seems to have struck up a really nice friendship with Van der Merwe as well. So I don't know at this stage if she would be seeking that, but she did miss 4 on the bounce. I think four super shots, which is just so unlike her. And if anything, going into finals, it should give confidence to the other players as well, because again, she can sometimes look like superhuman. It's like, God, is she ever going to miss a shot again in her life? But 4 in a row, you can credit the confidence to just keep demanding it and keep putting it up, because most of the shooters, let's be honest, after missing 4, apart from maybe Neve McCall, who did the same against Rhinos, would look to offload, or they'd look to change tactic and take a 1. But that shows self-belief, but also backing from the coaches as well, and your teammates to say, no, just keep doing it. So, bit weird to see her so rusty after just last week. Bit odd, but something I'll say about the Selena Appleby-Prince thing coming out a little bit too much. It is something younger athletes do, and I used to get told it all the time, like, you need to be more selective. You can't go for everything. But also it happens if you feel like you're in a situation where maybe your team is losing against a team you're not used to, you're losing momentum, or you yourself haven't got enough hand to ball to make yourself feel good. You start getting desperate and you start going looking for intercept opportunities. And I saw Pulse do this against Thunder, and we'll discuss that later on as well, just coming off task and going to, like, just get hand on ball yourself, but that very rarely works. So maybe a little bit of that seeping in from Lightning, who would not have expected to be in that situation towards half-time against Panthers. Great game to start the weekend off, and then we moved on to the big 4th spot battle between Forest and Mavs, and Forest took this one in the end 57-49, but it was 43-all with 9 minutes to go, and it was a really tight battle, as we would have hoped and expected. So again, another really great game to watch, and I was particularly sad because I found this one hard because I predicted Mavs to get the win, but I kind of semi-support Forest, as I do with a few teams. But so I wanted Forest to win, but I was like, but Mavs and my prediction. So I was very torn in this game. But it was a great game. Mavs started 8-1 down, but came back to 8-all, I think it was, in the first quarter. I just wrote down Sadler. She was so good. We've talked about it every single week since she's been signed, and
Yeah, she's just so good.
Yeah.
And Golub and Donahue out the front as well, just making life a bit easier for her. But I don't think they even need to. She'd just come out and get an intercept wherever. I always seem to write more notes about the losing team for some reason.
Well, you're giving them some.
Here we go.
You're giving us
Giving
some
them some
tips here.
support. Yeah, they're listening out for some tips from me. I thought Egbaran came on and initially had a few teething issues because I didn't think Emily Andrew was quite clicking in the circle with Georgina. And when Egbaran came on, I was like, oh, this is good because we hadn't seen her until this week for Mavs.
Yeah.
And but she has a few connection issues at the beginning, but she ironed them out. And once she did, she was so good to watch. She was coming out for ball, like breaking the zone. And the thing that I was most impressed about was when her decision making on the ball. So there was moments where I was like, she's going to give that ball, and she didn't, and she gave a much safer option, which is exactly what Mavs needed at that time. So again, she seems to have such a wise head on shoulders, and you do forget that she was in the Super League a couple of years ago, so all that experience behind her does help. But very excited for her for the future. Now, an interesting tactical point, Nia, was I think for Mavs were quite far down just before in the second quarter. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Game. And you thought that they were going to just smash the twos because they brought Egbaran on and they moved her into shooter and put Emily Andrew into goal attack. But instead of taking the twos, they just took one after one after one after one, and they got back to within 2 goals after being, I think it was 10 down at one point. Mm-hmm. So that was a really interesting tactic for me. And down the other end, Forest either were getting the ball taken off them or their twos weren't dropping. And so I think that's just such an interesting tactical play from Mavs, and shows the value of just keeping on going with those ones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was a really good game. I thought it was quite scrappy, but I thought the defensive pressure was the reason it was scrappy rather than anything else. Yeah. Well, what else? What other points have you got to say?
Yeah, I want to say that obviously, like, this is kind of game over for Mavs now. It's not mathematically because also Forest have got 3 very tough games, but even if they lose all 3, Mavericks have to be perfect or Dragons have to be perfect and hope there's no losing bonus points, whatever. So I think it's hard to judge Mavs based on the injuries that they've had. They've been absolutely savaged by injuries. So it's difficult to judge their season overall. We know they got into top 4 last year, but that was a big battle between them and Forest, and also they were annihilated in the very next game. So
yeah,
we want teams getting in there. We want new teams getting in there, but then we're greedy, aren't we? We also want them being competitive in that minor semi or major semi, whatever it might be. For me, I particularly watched the last quarter because with 9 minutes to go, it was a draw. But when they scored that equalising goal, there was no change in sort of like the vibe or the body language of the Mavs players. It didn't look like they just scored an equalising goal. So usually when a team has crawled back and all of a sudden you get level, you can see the team that has got all the momentum. I didn't feel that from Mavs. Their body language looked a little bit off. I don't know. And obviously I'm watching on telly, so it's not as insightful as watching it live, but that's what came across to me. You didn't see any huge roars or anybody really capitalising, because when if you were Forest and you'd been sort of 8 up, 9 up, and you feel that moment where it's like all your hard work has gone to waste because you get back level, it still looked like Forest had more energy in that moment. I'm glad in the post-match interview that Greenway spoke about they lost the connection on their second phase of the centre pass, because they did. Again, they kind of did a little bit what I spoke about Panthers a few weeks ago, in that Andrew and Liversidge didn't seem to be communicating too much on who was coming over. And they were very far apart on the line when one of them eventually burrowed through. There's nobody in the channel straight ahead of that person unless you're going to ask Sophie Egbaran to come in down the line and be the option. I thought Andrew ran out of total steam in the last quarter. She made some really key errors at key times. I thought she needed to come off, and she looked devastated with the mistakes as well. So if it was tipped out of hands or she passed straight into him, you literally saw that. And that to me is kind of like, get Amelia Hall on, Because at that point as well, she wasn't going to shoot the twos. So yeah, I think it's easy to say in hindsight, like, oh yeah, you should just keep the scoreboard ticking over and take the ones. But then ultimately you lost the game, and it's no longer good enough to say, oh, we outscored them in 1 point time, because that's not the game over here anymore. Yeah, you can take plenty from that, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. If you miss a two, ultimately people need to get their 2-shot accuracy up. That's the overall goal, and then you'll have less have a headache over should we have taken the 1, should we have taken the 2. So that's what I've written down here. Yeah, lacked a connection on the same side of the court in key moments. I did think it was a rough game, and I thought round 1 was a very rough game. There was a couple of a lot of body on body, a lot of people going full steam in when you can tell they're not going to get the ball. And this is both teams. So I thought, oh God, these are 2 teams who are really going at it here. We saw a couple of warnings, didn't we? To Cooper and to Knightbridge. Yeah, I think Cooper is always physical. She's always on the body. She's not a malicious player. And over the course of a whole game at wing defence, probably you are, in a match like that, probably going to pick up a few too many contacts and obstructions. If it's coming in the fourth quarter and you've been on the whole game, then that's okay. I think Knightbridge came on and got one quite quickly. I'll tell you one thing, I don't want to criticise young players especially, but there was one point where like Neve Cooper tried to like move her back gently into a position where she was supposed to take a penalty from. Did you see this? And
I would have done, but I'm not sure I remember it now.
Fell backwards about...
She pushed her. Yeah. But it looked like she made it look like Neve pushed her, but
I mean there was a little touch as if to say like you need to get back and set the penalty, but like trying to make it seem like more than it was, like I've never liked that. Also, the start of the game, did you see Andrew Stackett obviously felt like probably a little bit of contact from Pavlin, and then all of a sudden Pavlin went down, and it was and that was a key moment as well, because that was their centre pass. So it was like that from the off between these 2 clubs. So it makes it a good game to watch. But Mavs have lost twice to Forest now, and that's now going to maybe over the next few years be the real bogey team for each other as to who's really challenging for top 4.
Maybe, but I also think that the reason that they lost was that they had, as you said, just they've had many more injuries and weren't as connected. I thought sort of Forest just looked composed and like, we know what we're going to do here. And Mavs were a bit like, deer in headlights. But I've been very impressed with Mavs despite their injuries and despite all this. They've done much better than I thought they would this season. So I think there are some positives. The other thing I wanted to shout out was the umpires, because they made a couple of errors, but they stopped play. They made the wrong centre pass, and then it got down to shooting. They stopped, they corrected it and went back and took the centre pass the right way, which I love to see. Yeah, we all make errors. And they also sort of conferred with each other about a warning. So I just thought that showed some good umpiring.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. Okay, next game. Dragons took the win agonisingly. 68-62. Agonisingly for me, because I predicted Rhinos would get a bonus point. So 68-62 against Rhinos. Another great game here. And again, Rhinos, like Panthers, are stepping up at the end of the season, and I think it's very positive for them. I watched this very late at night at my mum's house, and I was like, I really do need to go to bed. And so I went into the shower and I watched some on my phone, and I ended up just like standing over the basin in my towel.
This is tragic. This is really tragic. So what you're telling everybody is you watch Dragons and Rhinos naked. Is that at your mum's? That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I was just like so hooked at the end. I was just like, I need to go to bed, but just like watching at the basin, like.
Also, is it, by basin, do you mean sink?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have supper instead of tea as well?
Yeah.
How are we on the same pod?
Is supper's just a southern thing, right?
Yeah, or sort of like a middle to upper class thing. It's up to you.
Is it?
A basin certainly isn't part of my vocab.
Basin?
Yeah.
I go to the toilet and I say lounge. So,
Okay.
My mum gets annoyed with me saying lounge.
Instead of...
Swings and roundabouts. Living room.
Oh, see, I say living room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also my old boss, so we're going really off topic here.
Yeah.
I said lounge once and he said, lounge? What lounge? We're not in a speakeasy. So I've always remembered that. He was very posh. But yeah, anyway. Dragons Rhinos, great game. 68-62 to Rhinos. I can't remember it because it was so late at night and I didn't write any notes. It's my point there. So I'm handing this one over to you, Nia.
Two really evenly matched teams on the day. I thought, it was a fascinating watch because I really didn't know which way it was going to go. And even at times where Dragons were up, I felt like Rhinos had actually played the better netball. And then also vice versa, times where Rhinos were in the lead, I thought, I think Dragons will feel hard done by here. Just really evenly matched on attack and defence. But I did say as well on Sky, I wonder how long Rhinos can keep this up for, because no disrespect to them, but to play with that type of shooting circle with Reed and Jones, who did play well, by the way, to play with that style, and that's for everybody to play with that style for a whole hour against a tough team, is really hard. Because again, we've said this a lot, but there's a reason most teams in this league, but also in Australia, New Zealand, have a shooter outlet that they can place a ball into 1v1. And I'm not saying that Reed or Jones can't do that. At times they can, but you can see that it's a real tactic of theirs to try and find clean lines, which means if you're stood behind somebody, I can't throw it over to you. I'm going to have to go over to A, round to B, and into UC if you're still holding that place, just to take any type of contest out of it, because they are always sort of the same height, if not a bit shorter than their opponents. And that was really where it was won and lost. I think the key turnover at key times from Newton and from Middleton against that. And it just becomes wearing, having to play extra phases after extra phases after extra phases. However, it was in the first quarter that I was like, oh God, I'm tearing my hair out watching Rhinos, because in the first 4 minutes, I think they made 3 errors off their own ball. 2 of them were footworks and 1 was out of court. And it's like, for Lauren Palmer, you've worked hard on your tactics, you've worked hard on your team selection all week, and then it's just absolute coach killers. Credit to them, like, they didn't let them rock. They didn't let it rock them, and they recovered from those small, proper unforced errors. And again, I'm always sort of like, well, it's obviously forced, because you don't just do footwork at this level because you feel like it. You feel like there's a pass on and you've had to pull out. So it's ultimately always a little bit forced. If you're out of court, it's because somebody's forced you in there. But they'll go down as unforced errors, and they'll feel like they're really tidyable, fixable things. And they did fix them. I thought Dyke and Rose connection, particularly in the first half, was amazing. They were just totally connected. Everybody, Chouani was good. Yarrington was feeding really well as well. But particularly Beth Dyke, they could not cope with her. And Georgia Rowe just looked at ease against Yomi Wilson, in fairness. However, credit to Palmer again. I thought Phoebe Maslin came on and shut down that connection a little bit more. Terrific player. Obviously, was at London Pulse Next Gen and has now been signed by Rhinos. But she used to play with Beth Dyke at Team Bath. They were quite close friends. They used to be centre and wing attack together. So we've obviously marked each other quite a lot. But Maslin did help disconnect those two, but also Langer was fantastic at goalkeeper, who came on for Wilson, did a much better job at turning ball over against Georgia Rowe. So yeah, Ranger opted to start McCall on the bench again and then implement her towards the last 5 minutes. And she wasn't as hot as quickly in this game. However, again, they won the game. So who are we to criticise? And maybe that's a tactic we'll see her use more often.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I also thought that when she did come on in super short time, it like you said last week, it's just so impressive how she.
However, wouldn't have been on my bingo card. Rhinos shot 16 super shots and Dragons shot 8. So the damage was really done. What I think was good that Dragons did was they put McCall on with Rowe. So instead of having McCall and Yarrington on, we're still really, Yarrington can shoot the twos, but really she's still there to service McCall in at goal shooter. McCall was out at goal attack and Rowe was in at shooter. So they still always had a very reliable 1 point if they couldn't quite get McCall into it. So I think that worked well for them, because they outscored Rhinos by 22 in 1 point time.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Thunder versus Pulse. So this again shakes everything up at the top of the table. Thunder took the win 64-52 to Pulse. And yeah, another exciting game, even though the scoreline looks pretty big. I felt like Pulse were coming back till the last few minutes when they sort of fell away again. First thing to say is no Licia Scholes. And I had it on my list last week, but I didn't say it because I thought we were running out of time. I was going to say, I think she's played every minute at wing attack until last week. And what's going to happen if she gets injured? Now, we saw the answer to that. And it doesn't read very well for Pulse, I think. Yeah, do you think that was a big factor in this, or do you think it was more than that?
I think it was more than that, because all over the court they didn't look themselves. But it certainly was a factor, and it is a factor, because she has had another good season for them. But I think the lack of her speed and her linking was really obvious in this game. So, first of all, Thunder were unbelievable. Like an honestly stunning performance from Thunder. And I think that coincided with a bad day in the office for Pulse, and that's taking nothing away from the result. But obviously it was no contest at times. Like Thunder were all over them in every department were superior. However, they did, like as Pulse was struggling to bring it through, if they did eventually get a call from an umpire or they did eventually get a ball, they missed that link that Liz does sometimes that probably not all wing attacks can do, but they don't have the speed and the energy of Liz Scholes to do it, that really just cuts through, relieves the pressure, and then she can get herself down at the speed of light anyway. So they definitely did miss that. But it's more so for everybody else. So like I remember in the build up to the Commonwealth Games in the Gold Coast, like Beth Dyke was our wing attack. I was playing goal defence at this point. And we did have a really good mid-court. We had Kyra Jones, we had Susie Drain, and we had Amanda Chants, Amanda Very. But so much of our preparation and so many of our training games and most of our combinations in training when you're doing three-court drills had Beth in at wing attack. And she did her ACL in the second game. And it really affected me because I just was nowhere near as used to linking with somebody else in that position, like a Susie or an Amanda, who are unbelievable players, but it's just different. So like it affected the way that I could play and the timing of my release and my confidence in letting a ball go into a certain space compared to somebody that I was so used to playing with. And you're up against the best teams that you've ever played against. In this case, they came up against an unbelievable Thunder team who were proper in the mood. So it does affect it just from how used you are to playing with somebody. But none of them were at it. Like Cheen looked totally different to last week. Like Hallie Avio looked frustrated from the start with calls that were being given or weren't being given. Like they just didn't look themselves. And credit to Sam Bird, because we have seen her be animated before, but she looked really calm. And listening into the boom mic, she was trying to be really calm and still belief and still being really positive. Like she hadn't lost her head. But Pulse reminded me, and I said this at the start of the year to you, Pulse used to be a team that you could feel like you could get under their skin, and they start to get distracted by external things that they couldn't control and start to become frustrated. They look like that Pulse to me against Thunder, which again, credit to Thunder, but we haven't seen that side of Pulse yet this season, and we definitely didn't see it last season. And that's why they went on to win the league. So, very bad day in the office. I think I said on comms that it looked like top of the table against bottom of the table, and I think Pamela Cookie said that was a little bit harsh, but at times it really did look like that. Just couldn't find a rhythm at all. Plus, I know they came back in the third quarter, and they did win the third quarter, so that shows character. But I think it was all about Thunder. It was absolutely brilliant performance. Like to a player, any of them could have got player of the match. You could have vouched for any of them to get player of the match. They were brilliant.
Yeah, do you want to talk a bit more about why Thunder was so good?
I tried to write it down. I just put they were gritty. Like they did that nitty gritty stuff as well, and they didn't have it all their own way. So I think they went behind slightly in the first sort of 5 minutes. Really struggled to punch through. They having to be really patient around the circle. But again, I think when Pulse start like that and you don't cough up early ball, I think you can settle into the game. I think if Pulse feel like they've rushed you or you've lost patience really early or you've thrown a ball into Fumi's arms really early, I feel like in the psyche of the game, they feel like they've got you. But Thunder were really, really patient in those opening 5 minutes, didn't panic at all. thought Metcalf was brilliant in how she used her movements, subtle little movements to get away from Everett. Like little movements where we know Everett's going to come around and screw the front. She's trying to promote the ball to be lifted into the pocket then for Hallie or for Fumi. But the angle in which Nat Metcalf would shrug off that and then offer behind, she offers in a way that's too high and too wide for any of the circle defenders to challenge. So it's little nuances like that you're like, okay, this is where the experience is really coming through. I just wrote down that they were gritty, energetic, composed, but also very together. And Huckle and Smith were like women possessed. Like genuinely, they constantly in between everything as well. They were like more energy. And it was just like they absolutely owned that circle, and anybody who dared come into it or dared shoot over it was in for trouble. So I just think, I don't know what was said to them beforehand. I don't know if they knew that they had already qualified. Interesting. And I'm not going to stitch people up here, but we went to do shortly before an interview with Karen Gregg. Somebody nearby, not going to reveal who, somebody said to her, Karen, congratulations. She went, you are? And they were like, well, Mav's lost, so you're in top 4. She was like, for God's sake, I wanted to go and watch it later with a cup of tea. So first of all, I was like, definitely a glass of wine. But like, we thought it was fascinating. Well, we felt bad, obviously, but we thought it was fascinating that she didn't know. But actually, like, there's pros and cons to that, isn't there? She wants to go into this with full clarity of, I don't care what's going on elsewhere. I want to win this game. But then we also said, we were just talking amongst ourselves, let's pretend, I don't know, Cardwell, key player, goes down, or she's feeling tightness in her calf, whatever, but you're 1 up against Pulse. Do you keep her on and risk it to win that game, or actually knowing that you've already secured top 4, it's like, no, let's bring her off. So interesting tactic from Greg to try and avoid that score. I said, well, what about the girls? Do they know? She said, they might know. I don't want to know. So yeah, it's just interesting because we would have assumed that she'd have been keeping close tabs on that. But yeah, maybe that's that elite mindset that she genuinely doesn't care what's going on elsewhere. Coaches always say it to us, but proof.
Yeah, interesting. And also great Manchester accent there. Finally, we've got it out of you.
I don't know about that. What did I write down about Pulse? I just thought they were a bit stiff. Like the word that I could describe as a bit stiff in attack. I thought they were over emotional and over aroused, and I never thought I'd say the word aroused. And I've been there. Like I've been there where you're going over and you're out of breath, screaming at the umpires, being like, "She did this, she's doing this," but we just haven't seen that side to Pulse so far this season. I think they were shocked by their own start, and yeah, they just could never claw it back. They just,
yeah. I thought that some of the passes around the circle, as great as the intercepts were, after Smith has put her arm out and got a few of those passes, stop giving them.
Yeah,
like they didn't do that. They didn't adjust to the defense. I thought.
Like how many clean intercepts did Nicola Smith get off first phase? Just like the angle of, I think it was Sophie Kelly's drives coming over. It's like that really nice, slightly lateral angle going away, fading away towards the sideline. That you do that drill all the time in training as a goal defence. You never get the intercept unless the feeder is being like, "Here you go, my friend." But she must have got 2 or 3 really clean ones, and it's didn't adapt, didn't change direction. It was weird, but that makes it a brilliant prospect, doesn't it, going into semi-finals? Because we said Thunder won't care how they've been, they're peaking at exactly the right time. And we hear like athletes say this in athletics, like they don't care about their times in the off season and the indoors. They're not trying to peak for them, but it came together.
And at the same time, Loughborough didn't falter, but looked beatable against Panthers. So yeah, it's all to play for. And I wanted to talk briefly about this. Within the top 4, there are some very interesting games coming up. So Forest are playing the top 3, which we know. But they're the people until this weekend and last weekend that have come closest to beating Loughborough and Pulse. So that they in themselves will be interesting. We've also got Thunder versus Loughborough in the final round. And I feel like that could be quite clutch as to who's going to finish in second. And then I wanted to ask you, what do you think about this final, the way the finals are now? Do you like it? So for those who don't know, you have a major semi-final, which is 1 versus 2. And then you have a minor semi-final, which is 3 versus 4. Now, the winner of 1 versus 2 goes through to the final. The loser plays the winner of 3 versus 4. So it's sort of an extended semi-final round. But it means that if you get into the top 2, it's really it's really beneficial because you could just make it through to the final with one game. So yeah, I wanted to know what your thoughts are.
I think I like it because obviously you're rewarded for how high you finish up the table, because you're competing for not just like a one match to get into the final if you're in that top two, but you're also competing for home advantage as well. And it used to be, when Super League was a little bit less competitive, that one would play 4, 2 would play 3, and that would be your final. But there wasn't that much of a contest between the first and the fourth place team back then. I think it'd be different now, probably, because we've seen, as you said, Forest beat Loughborough twice last year, if that is going to be where it ends up this year. But I do like it. I think it adds drama. And yeah, gives that second place team, or whoever loses that first semi-final 1 and 2, it gives them another chance to get through to the final, because ultimately they have been the second best team, or one of the top 2 teams in the league as well. So yeah, I think the home advantage thing would be massive as well. Like, I think I'm not sure if we would have seen that level of performance from either of the teams in that Thunder Pulse game if it was at the Copper Box. I think Pulse would have been better and Thunder might not have been so good, personally. I'm never going to know. But yeah, they'll be really fighting for that home advantage as well. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, and it means these last games really matter now. It's not just like I'm in the top 4.
Yeah.
I can just walk to the end. It's now time for Near Nose. And this week's question has actually come up quite a lot. So Tilly Broom has sent the most recent one in, but it's come up from a few of you, so thank you very much. This is: why do some games have post-game chats with head coaches and player of the matches, but others don't?
I can't necessarily get into the reasons why, but just so that you know where you stand if you're watching at home. So if it is on the BBC, there will always be pre-match with both coaches, and it's in vision as well. So you'll notice, like, it's mostly Kath Merritt or Lindsay Chapman who do the presenting and the lead commentating on the BBC games. They'll do an in vision with both coaches prior to the game. They'll do in vision post-match with both coaches and player of the match post-game. So on the BBC, you always know that that's what you're getting, hopefully. And then when it's a Sky game that's on the telly, you will also get those interviews as well post-match. And it's not as easy as saying you'll definitely get all coaches and all player of the matches, because it genuinely, I think, and it's never on YouTube. So when we have the Sky games on YouTube, we don't have that access, we don't have that capability. Again, it's probably just a budget thing, but it's also quite difficult at the end of the game, right? Because it's essentially just like the lead and the co. So what you'll have noticed that happens is, depending on who the most experienced maybe one it is at asking the questions. So for instance, I've only just started doing this now, but if I was in there with a Lindsay Chapman, for instance, if I was co and Lindsay Chapman was there, Lindsay's the more experienced like interviewer, reporter there. So, and I'm confident in talking over analysis. So what you'll notice at the end of the game, say on a BBC game or on a Sky YouTube game, is one player will just talk to themselves essentially over like a 2-minute highlight reel. And what they're doing there is just trying to fill, waiting to watch their mate go down courtside, grab a player, go to the designated area, get a thumbs up from the guy down there, with the sound and with the mics, or wait for somebody who's sat in an office in Glasgow, because that's where the production company is based, to say like, Lindsay's ready, Q interview, whatever. So you're essentially holding to that point. I'm happy doing that. We all know we like the sound of my own voice over some netball clips. Some people might not be, but also I know that Lindsay's fine with doing that interview. If it's me doing it with somebody who's done co-coms like never, you don't really want to put them under pressure to go and ask a question, but also they might not want to hold on the analysis. So I don't know how much that comes into it, but definitely from a budget perspective, we don't have that ability. I know when we did it down at the Brighton Centre, we could only quickly we thought we were going to get player of the match interviews, and I would do it from my studio and I just speak to them on headphones, but there were sound issues, and you never know the situation really until you're in the moment. So I'm just at the mercy of the director to say like, interviews are a no-go, or we've got TAMs in quickly, we've got TAMs in. So to be honest, it's a little bit unpredictable, because it's still not a smooth production at times. I think they know, and we know that we like access. We want interviews after every game and before every game if possible, but at the minute, if you're only watching on YouTube and it's only a YouTube production, you're probably not going to see any, unfortunately, which is why I think it's important sometimes then that clubs take it into their own hands. and they could do their own post-match interviews, and we've credited a couple of teams who've done that as well.
Yeah. Talking about commentating, Nia, are you doing any this weekend?
No, I'm not on any until the prelim final now, and the final, hopefully. Just schedule and demand.
Football.
And, as in, they obviously didn't need me for some, already filled, or I'm already doing some football stuff. So I'm excited to be on the prelim and the final, but it's weird because it's in like 5-6 weeks time. So now I can watch on as a fan, which would be quite nice.
Oh, nice. All right, now we're moving on to our predictions, and as I've mentioned a few times, I failed a bit last week, and Nia went 2 up, and so is now 4 up again. And we've only got a few rounds left. We're going to have to continue this into the final rounds just to give me a little bit of chance. So, round 12. Rhinos versus Thunder actually, do you know what? Before we get into this, there's a Nia Knows question, which was, how do you do your predictions? And I'll tell you how I do mine. It's just completely off the cuff. I think of it on the spot.
See, I will have had a little look at what the fixtures are and had a think about what I think could happen, how they played last week, how they fared before. So my tactic is clearly working 4 points better than yours, but most of it is just a gut feeling, to be honest. Or
yeah.
There's not a or does she mean like how do you calculate it? Because
maybe that might be it. So we're doing 1 point for a win and 1 point if you get the bonus point correct.
Yeah, and then you use a bit of AI to help you keep tabs on the scores.
Yeah, and this week the AI was a bit brutal. The Dragons versus Rhinos bonus call was the other 1 point swing. Rhinos losing by 6, not 5, means Emily's bonus call missed by a single goal. Full stop. Painful.
He should be a pundit on Sky. He'd be good.
Yeah.
He'd make me look like good cop, I think.
Hey, we shouldn't be calling it him. It's an it.
I thought his name was Claude.
Well, yes, but Nia, we can't be humanising the machines. Right, Rhinos versus Thunder, Friday at 7 p.m.
I think it'll be a good game. And I think it'll be relatively tight, but I've put Thunder and no.
I think Thunder and no as well. Lightning versus Forest, Friday at 7 p.m. as well.
I've put Forest and yes, a bonus point.
So Forest win and Lightning get a bonus point.
And I've said before, I'm never writing Lightning off again this season because I keep trying it. But I think I'm still hurt for Forest about that scoring error, and I'm trying to vouch for them a little bit. And again, they beat them twice last year. So just for my own excitement, I'm going that Forest are going to beat Lightning, but Lightning will get a bonus point.
I'm going to go the opposite. So I'm going to say Lightning are going to win, but Forest are going to get a bonus point. Panthers versus Dragons, Saturday at 6 p.m. And it's only fair if I go first here. I think Dragons are going to win, but I think Panthers will get a bonus point.
Yeah, I agree.
Damn it. And then the final game is Mavs versus Pulse, Sunday at 4 p.m. I think this is at Wembley Arena, at Wembley Stadium.
Wembley?
OVO, yeah. Big arena game. And I think Pulse are going to win, but Mavs are going to get a bonus point.
I think Pulse are going to win and Mavs will not get a bonus point.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for this week. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and keep those chants coming in. And we'll try and get Nia to sing one next week. Okay. See you then. Bye.
Thank you, bye.
I'm really passionate about netball.